So one attorney tells the judge, this guy thinks he's Santa Claus, and they're ready to sign off. A judge is ready to sign off on it without even reading the rest of the petition. Fascinating. Time for another dadgum episode of Ridiculous Court Scenes. With that in mind, court calls the case of State of New York v. Kris Kringle.
You've been drinking.
Well, it's cold. A man's got to do something to keep warm.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Don't you realize there are thousands of children lining the streets waiting to see you?
Not to mention, he's about to drive a sleigh. Okay, so fake Santa here is already in danger of getting a DUI. Okay, now technically our statute in Arizona says operating a motor vehicle, reindeer-driven vehicle, probably an exception, maybe. It's a good argument for court, but could be a public intoxication statute. We don't have one in Arizona, but they're in New York here for the Macy's Day Parade. So fake Santa's in danger of at least 2 crimes here that I can think of.
Yes.
So Mr. Kringle here has committed an assault, clearly. He used a weapon. However, guy's not bleeding. You'd have a pretty hard chance saying, I mean, that looked like, was that a cane or an umbrella? So I don't think any aggravators are going to apply. It looks like it's going to be a simple assault. So there are some that the prosecution could argue for. A deadly weapon is anything that could potentially cause death, not an instrument that is designed to cause death. So in other words, it doesn't have to be a sword or a knife or a gun or something like that. A cane could be used. I mean, probably take a while. I'm not trying to be, graphic or anything. But theoretically, they could make an argument for ag assault with a deadly weapon. With a simple circumstance like that, it looks like it's going to be simple misdemeanor assault. Here in Arizona, it'd be misdemeanor 1. So, Santa's in a little trouble. Probably not a ton.
But you'll get me out of this. You'll think of something.
It's not going to be easy, Chris.
Oh, it will be for you. I believe you're the greatest lawyer since Darryl.
Just a second.
Okay, so this is just making me laugh because Santa is like the typical defense client that is just like, man, I have hired a private attorney. You are awesome. You're going to get me out of this. Doesn't always work that way. He's been accused of a misdemeanor, and now he's actually going for a sanity hearing, essentially, which we'll get into here in a second. But, he's not in a ton of trouble, and the fact is, there was a witness to it. Can he get out of it? As in, can he get out of the crazy house? Can he get away and maybe only get like a diversion or something like that? Yeah. But a lot of guys just think you hire a private attorney, it just goes away. Usually just go away. There's always something to be done. But Santa here, being a kind of typical criminal defense client. Okay, so I would like to comment on this document that we're seeing right here, State of New York, Department of Mental Hygiene. I have no idea. Number one, it's not my state. And number two, this movie is like 1934, it is an old movie. Okay, hang on. No, at the top it says revised July 1946. Okay, it's from the 40s at some point. It's still a really old movie. I have no idea if they even used to call it that, but essentially what we have here is a petition to have somebody declared mentally unfit. Those happen all the time. Modern, you'd probably be doing some type of guardianship issue, whether you're appointing a private guardian and maybe it's like a child is petitioning for their parent saying, my parent just isn't, making the best decisions anymore. And so we need them to be declared, that they can't make those decisions and I need to be their guardian so I can make those decisions for them. Or the state is doing it themselves, just saying we need to appoint somebody. It might have to be a government representative. Those happen all the time. So, looks pretty legit. Whether this is what those petitions looked like in 1946 or not, that's well before my time.
Age unknown. Old man, huh?
Very old, Your Honor.
I suppose I'll have to read all this.
And speaking of typical, I don't actually know. I know some judges. I've never actually asked them, hey, do you actually read the briefs? Do you read all the way through the petitions? Or do you let things come to your courtroom before you decide, maybe I won't even have to read that. Maybe it'll actually get settled before it even gets to trial or a hearing or anything like that. So I've never asked them that. But I've always assumed that a whole lot of stuff just sits in the back, not getting read until the moment that they actually have to. That's my guess. Like, I could be totally wrong. If there's any judges watching, feel free to tell me in the comments.
Man calls himself Kris Kringle. Thinks he's Santa Claus.
Uh-oh. In.
So one attorney tells the judge, this guy thinks he's Santa Claus, and they're ready to sign off. A judge is ready to sign off on it without even reading the rest of the petition. Fascinating.
If Your Honor, please, I request a formal hearing to which I may bring witnesses.
I thought you said this was cut and dry.
That's what I was told. I didn't know anything about a protest.
Of course, you may sign the commitment papers now if you wish, Your Honor, but I shall bring in habeas corpus this afternoon.
There's no point in signing. We'll have a hearing on Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good day.
So he came in and told him, yeah, you could sign that petition, but I'd bring a habeas corpus, which means hold the body. It's just essentially saying the government doesn't have the right to hold this person. It could be incarcerated. It could be in a mental institution like that. Essentially, they're just saying, yeah, you can't hold them there. So he's just saying, yeah, you could sign that, but I will appeal in one form or another. That's what happened.
Mr. Gailey, I represent Mr. Macy. My name's Sawyer.
Oh, so you're Sawyer.
Yes. Now, regarding this Kringle matter, we're very anxious to avoid publicity of any kind.
Naturally.
So, if you would agree to put this matter through quietly, I'm sure we could find some generous way of expressing our appreciation.
Very interesting.
Then you'll cooperate?
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Attempting to bribe an attorney on the other side. Yeah. I didn't catch whether this guy was a doctor or an attorney, but one way or another. Pretty sure he's putting his license in jeopardy, whatever that license is.
I got you elected, didn't I? And I'm going to try to get you reelected.
I know, Charlie. Now, don't misunderstand me. I appreciate everything that you've done for me.
And I'm telling you to get off this case.
But why?
Because you're a regular Pontius Pilate the minute you start, that's why.
Oh, I don't believe it. I'm an honest man, and nobody's going to hold it against me for doing my duty as I see it.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they totally will. People hold honest judges accountable for decisions that they don't like all the time. Supreme Court is the best example. The Supreme Court justices are always, everybody thinks one side is the devil, one side is the angel. And it depending on who you're asking, which is which, right? But a lot of those guys, regardless of whatever their politics are or whatever they actually think, are giving their honest opinion. Some of them are influenced by politics and are given an opinion that they actually don't believe in, but who knows? Who knows what's in their heart or in their mind? But people hold honest people accountable for opinions that they don't like every dadgum day.
All persons having business with the special term, Part 3 of the Supreme Court, held in and for the County of New York. Draw near and give your attendance, and ye shall be heard.
If you're curious, no, they're not before the highest court in the state of New York. They just said it was the Supreme Court. That's actually correct. I happen to know that New York is one of the only states that calls their trial level court, the first level court, the Supreme Court. I don't remember what they actually call their upper court, but for some reason they decided the Supreme Court was a good title for their first level. Just to confuse the rest of us, I guess.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in the cause before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Before you begin, Mr. Marrow, I want to explain to the witness that this is a hearing, not a trial. Mr. Kringle, you don't have to answer any questions against your wishes or even testify at all.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
Oh, I'll be glad to answer any question that I can.
What is your name?
Kris Kringle.
Where do you live?
That's what this hearing will decide.
A very sound answer, Mr. Kringle.
Get a compliment from the judge on your answer. That's a heck of an answer. I've never seen that one before. Okay, so right here, the state rested, right? They put their whole case on the fact that this guy says he's Santa Claus. Okay, well, all right, here in Arizona, if you were going to apply for guardianship of this person and say this person is incapacitated or, mentally incapacitated, the standard you would have to prove would go from ARS Title 14, Section 5101. And this would be subsection 3 here. And it says that an incapacitated person means any person who is impaired by reason of mental illness, and we're going to ... because there's a whole lot in the middle here, to the extent that he lacks sufficient understanding or capacity to make or communicate reasonable decisions concerning his person. So now the fascinating thing there is that if you say you're Santa Claus, but you know how to cook for yourself, feed yourself, hold a job down, which this guy has shown that he could. Had a good job as Santa Claus at Macy's, right? So if he can actually take care of himself, theoretically, you can make an argument that he can say, I am Santa Claus, and still be mentally competent to function in regular life. So I wouldn't have rested here if I was the state. Of course, this is New York. They could have had a completely different law over there, and this was in 1946. So back then, it could have been, once again, completely different from what they have today. However, in Arizona today, definitely couldn't have rested right then. If you're really trying to prove that he was incapacitated, you would have to show that being Santa Claus makes him make bad decisions.
Well, Mr. Gailey, do you wish to cross-examine the witness? I believe he was employed to play Santa Claus. Perhaps he didn't understand the question correctly.
Oh, maybe the judge can set him up for his own defense. Maybe the judge, hey, can I give you suggestions? Maybe you want to come to the court and tell me what I want to hear so that I can be nice to this guy. You're never going to get that in a real courtroom.
I'm fully aware of my client's opinions. In fact, that's the entire case against him. All these complicated tests and reports boil down to this. Mr. Kringle is not sane because he believes himself to be Santa Claus.
An entirely logical and reasonable assumption, I'm afraid.
It would be if the clerk here, or Mr. Mara, or I believed that we were Santa Claus.
Anyone who thinks he's Santa Claus is not sane.
Not necessarily. You believe yourself to be Judge Harper, yet no one questions your sanity because you are Judge Harper.
I know all about myself, young man. Mr. Kringle is the subject of this hearing.
Yes, Your Honor. And if he is the person he believes himself to be, just as you are, then he's just as sane.
Granted, but he isn't.
Oh, but he is, Your Honor.
Is what?
I intend to prove that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
He's crazy, too.
Okay, so if I had to have that case, let's say that this guy makes this argument, and then Lincoln lawyer style, he gets shot in it, and then I have to take his case, right? Okay, and I'm in this case and totally stuck with it, and maybe I just feel like I have to follow this argument for whatever reason. Okay, I'm going to say, actually, I could do that, because just because we've created a mythical Santa Claus doesn't mean that one didn't really exist and that somebody named Santa Claus couldn't exist today. Okay, so my argument essentially would boil down to Santa Claus was just somebody that gave presents. It doesn't mean that he flies around with magical reindeer. It just means that he thinks he's a really giving person, and maybe his parents really did name him Kris Kringle, so he really is a person named Santa Claus. So you could do that. I don't think that's the way this guy's going. I think he's, and I mean, it's a magical Christmas movie. We want to feel good and, you know, all happy about Santa. So I don't think that's the way it's going. But theoretically, you could actually use that as a defense.
R.H. Macy.
You are the owner of one of the biggest department stores in New York City?
The biggest.
Mr. Macy, if you recognize the gentleman seated there, will you tell us who he is?
Kris Kringle.
Your employee, is he not?
Yes.
Do you believe him to be truthful?
Yes.
Do you believe him to be of sound mind?
I certainly do.
Mr. Macy, you're under oath.
Other attorneys just going to jump in the middle of his line of questioning and start cross-examination. And this lawyer here, the guy that's actually representing Kris Kringle, I forget his name, but he's just going to stand there and let him do it. No objection. And the judge is going to be totally cool with it. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But, all right, well, let's see how it goes.
I do. Psychologist. Where'd you graduate from? A correspondence school? You're fired.
Psychologist accused of graduating from a correspondence school. I just have to point out the funny thing. Videos that I've done before about Better Call Saul, that's how Jimmy McGill went to law school, it's a correspondence school. So just an interesting correlation there.
Your Honor, I submit it's purely a matter of opinion. Can Mr. Mara offer any proof that there is no Santa Claus?
No, and I do not intend to. This is not a nursery. It's the New York State Supreme Court, and I'll not waste this court's time with such childish nonsense.
Actually, no, and I don't intend to, and I can't because I already rested my case. You're already done presenting evidence. You can cross-examine witnesses, but your presentation of evidence is done. So just because he threw you a curveball that you weren't expecting doesn't mean you can go, oh, wait a minute, now I want to present a good case. So that wouldn't happen.
Mr. Mara seems to have appointed himself the judge here, Your Honor. He's now ruling on what testimony I may introduce.
Your Honor, we request an immediate ruling from this court. Is there or is there not a Santa Claus?
Well,
request an immediate ruling on the question of, is there a Santa Claus? As crazy as it sounds, he'd probably want briefs from both sides to determine the matter and see if there's any case law on it. And honestly, you'd probably want everybody's definition of it, and you probably couldn't define it. Every culture's got a little bit different definition of it. And as I said, probably there was once a person that we based this Santa Claus figure on who was just a real person that liked giving away presents. So yeah, you need a definition. That's what I would do, is try to brief a historical definition and go, it was a real person. Yeah, that's all he thinks he is.
All right. You go back and tell him that the New York State Supreme Court rules there's no Santa Claus. It's all over the papers. The kids read it and they don't hang up their stockings. Now, what happens to all the toys that are supposed to be in those stockings? Nobody buys them. The toy manufacturers are going to like that. So they have to lay off a lot of their employees, union employees. Now you got the CIO and the AFL against you, and they're going to adore you for it. And they're going to say it with votes. Oh, and the department stores are going to love you too. And the Christmas card makers. And the candy companies. Oh, Henry, you're going to be an awful popular fella. And what about the Salvation Army? Why, they got a Santa Claus on every corner, and they take in a fortune. But you go ahead, Henry. You do it your way. You go on back in there and tell them that you rule there's no Santa Claus. Go on.
Elected judges was one of the reasons why Arizona's statehood was vetoed, I believe, by William Howard Taft before we became a state. And it wasn't something that in the original founding of the country that we were supposed to have. They were supposed to, under the Constitution, federal judges are all appointed. Most state judges were appointed back then. If I remember right, actually all state judges were appointed back then, and the purpose was so that they wouldn't be political. So what we're seeing right now, just as an interesting historical fact, is pointed out by this Hollywood movie, the fact that even a judgeship has become something of a political nature. They're influenced by politics. They can be influenced by voters, and they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be above it and just go, you know what? I'm just going to look at the law and not care what anybody thinks, because I don't have to worry about it, because I keep this job regardless of whether they like me or not. It's an important thing to have from judges, but instead, they're influenced by politics.
before making a ruling, this court has consulted the highest authority available. The question of Santa Claus seems to be largely a matter of opinion. Many people firmly believe in him. Others do not. The tradition of American justice demands a broad and unprejudiced view of such a controversial matter. This court, therefore, intends to keep an open mind. We shall hear evidence on either side.
He's crazy, too. Your Honor, the burden of proof for this ridiculous contention clearly rests with my opponent. Can he produce any evidence to support his views?
If Your Honor please, I can. Will Thomas Mara please take the stand?
Who, me?
Thomas Mara, Jr.
Somehow I'm thinking that the district attorney did not know that his son was going to be taking the stand, which tells me he wasn't on a witness list of any kind, which tells me he probably wouldn't be testifying. Also, he looks pretty young. I'm pretty sure there'd be objections to this. It's fun, though.
Tell me, Tommy, why are you so sure there's a Santa Claus?
Because my daddy told me so. Didn't you, Daddy?
And you believe your daddy, don't you, Tommy? He's a very honest man.
Of course he is. My daddy wouldn't tell me anything that wasn't so. Would you, Dad?
Thank you, Tommy.
No chance to cross-examine Tommy by his own father. Just pick him up and let him go from the stand. Okay, but yeah, whatever. Another interesting point is that he didn't ever ask, did your father tell you that that guy is Santa Claus, which would have been a really brilliant way to wrap up that whole line of questioning.
Your Honor, the state of New York concedes the existence of Santa Claus. But in so conceding, we ask that Mr. Gailey cease presenting personal opinion as evidence. The state could bring in hundreds of witnesses with opposite opinions. But it's our desire to shorten this hearing rather than prolong it. I therefore request that Mr. Gailey now submit authoritative proof that Mr. Kringle is the one and only Santa Claus.
Your point's well taken, Mr. Mara. I'm afraid we must agree.
Maybe I missed it, but I don't remember Chris Kringle here saying that he is the one and only Santa Claus. Maybe he did, but that would actually be adding an additional fact to what they were trying to bring, so maybe.
The Post Office Department was created by the Second Continental Congress on July 26, 1776. The first Postmaster General was Benjamin Franklin. The Post Office Department is one of the largest business concerns in the world. Last year, under Robert Hannigan, it did a gross business of $1,112,877,174.
Your Honor, I'm sure we're all gratified to know that the Post Office Department is doing so nicely, but it hardly has any bearing on this case.
It has a great deal, Your Honor, if I may be allowed to proceed.
The good old back and forth of every courtroom drama that never really happens in courtrooms, except, I guess, apparently in family law that I learned from my friend Josefa a couple weeks ago.
I offer them as positive proof that a competent...
3 letters, Your Honor, are hardly positive proof. I understand the Post Office receives thousands of these letters every year.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be very happy to see them.
Yes. Produce them, Mr. Gailey. Put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor...
Put them here on the desk. Put them...
Yes, Your Honor.
Probably the best thing you could come up with when they were asking for authoritative evidence to show that there is a Santa Claus. They actually found a federal agency that's saying, yeah, we recognize that there is, and we're sending mail to him. Okay, well, I mean, the closest thing, pretty weak probably in a real court of law, fun for the movie.
Federal government recognizes this man, Chris Kringle, to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed.
Choose his opinion right on the spot like every good judge in a movie. But every good judge that's actually in a courtroom would go back and say, okay, I'll take this under advisement. You'd get a decision in, I don't know, a few days to a few weeks, maybe a few hours if it's a really pressing issue. But probably not just in the courtroom like that. But hey, you know what? It's fun. So that's how we do it in the movies. All right, that is Miracle on 34th Street, the original version. Fun show. Have a Merry Christmas, and we will see you next time.